I remember the first time I really read Judas' story, not just skimmed it, not just heard in a sermon, but really sat with it. I was 14, sitting alone in my room with a dusty Bible someone had given me, flipping through the Gospels, not knowing what I was looking for. And then I found him, Judas Iscariot, one of the 12, one of the chosen. That fact alone shook me. I always thought of him as the villain, like he was never really one of them. But no, he walked with Jesus, ate with him, watched him heal the blind, raise the dead, speak to storms. He wasn't a stranger to the miracles. He was part of the story. And still, he sold Jesus for a bag of coins. That wrecked me, because if someone that close to the truth could fall so far, what about the rest of us? I remember just staring at the page, frozen, rereading the part where Judas realized what he'd done. I betrayed innocent blood. And then he threw the silver and ran. But instead of running to Jesus for mercy, he ran to death. That moment haunted me for years, because I saw myself in him. Not because I'd sold out Jesus for money, but because I knew what it was like to live with guilt, to carry shame so heavy that it felt like there was no way back. I used to wonder, late at night, what if he had just waited? What if Judas had held on just a little longer, long enough to see Jesus alive again? But he didn't. And now, after what I saw in hell, I realized the tragedy didn't end in the Bible. He's still there, still trapped in that moment, still wishing he had made a different choice. And when I stood before him, he didn't accuse. He didn't scream. He begged. Tell them, he said. Tell them betrayal starts small, but ends like this. I never thought I'd say this out loud, but I spoke to Judas. Yes, that Judas, the one who betrayed Jesus with a kiss. And what he told me, it shattered me. I didn't hear it in a dream or imagine it during some wild vision. I was there. I died for a moment, and what I saw changed everything. In hell, nothing is hidden. Every soul screams a truth they once denied. And Judas? He wasn't the traitor I imagined. He was broken, full of regret, still tasting the silver, still reliving that moment of betrayal over and over. And his words to me were a warning. I'm telling you this because these stories, as dark and terrifying as they are, wake us up. They show us how real eternity is. They remind us that hell isn't for the monsters. It's for people who made small compromises and never turned back. And if this story makes you uncomfortable, good, it should. Because sometimes it takes seeing the fire to finally run from it. Let me take you with me to the place I never want to see again, to the voices I'll never forget, and to the truth that might just save your soul. What the first person you met in hell was Judas Iscariot himself. Not a shadow, not a vision, but his voice, his presence, his grief so overwhelming it felt like the air was suffocating me. Would you listen to what he has to say? Or would you run, knowing you might share his fate? I didn't expect to end up there. Actually, I didn't expect to die at all. It was supposed to be just another day. I remember the moment everything went dark, the hospital room, the sudden silence, the flicker of lights, and then the cold. Not the kind of cold you feel on your skin, but a chilling emptiness that wrapped around my soul. And then I was falling, not through space, through guilt, through everything I buried and tried to forget. Have you ever felt the weight of every lie you told crashing down at once? I landed in a place where time didn't exist. No clocks, no sun, just agony and the endless sound of regret. I didn't know where I was, not at first, but then I heard the screams. Not chaotic, they had rhythm like a twisted choir. And in the distance, a man sitting in silence, head down, whispering to himself. As I got closer, I recognized him, not by his face, but by the torment that surrounded him. It was deeper than the others. He wasn't just suffering. He was drenched in despair. When he looked up at me, I knew. Judas. Yes, that Judas. The one who walked with Jesus. The one who touched miracles. The one who ate at the same table as the Son of God and still chose silver over salvation. But what broke me wasn't just seeing him there. It was what he said. I knew he loved me, and I still sold him. His voice wasn't angry. It was hollow, 1,000 years of echoing remorse condensed into one moment. He told me that betrayal isn't always loud. Sometimes it's the quiet compromises we make, the silent approval of sin, the prayer left unsaid, the chance to choose light, and choosing comfort instead. And I couldn't argue, because deep inside I felt it. I had my own silver coins, my own denials, my own little betrayals that I thought didn't matter. What you're going to discover now may surprise you, because hell isn't just for murderers and monsters. It's for those who almost followed the truth, who got close to Jesus, but never truly surrendered. Judas taught me that, and as I stood there, face to face with the man who kissed the Savior only to lead him to death, I began to wonder, how many of us are doing the same, in smaller ways, every single day? Stay with me until the end, because what happened next was something I never expected. I began to wonder, how many of us are doing the same, in smaller ways, every single day? That thought stayed with me like a thorn in the soul, and maybe it's staying with you too, because Judas wasn't a monster in the beginning. He was a follower, a believer, a man with good intentions, until those intentions twisted quietly into self-interest, until he convinced himself that 30 pieces of silver were worth more than truth. And when I looked at him, I didn't just see Judas. I saw myself. And maybe, just maybe, you see something too. If what you've heard so far speaks to something deep inside you, if it stirred up questions, memories, or even a sense of urgency you can't ignore, I want to ask you to do something simple but powerful. Leave a comment. Really, tell me, or tell us, what spoke to you, what moment hit hardest. This space isn't just a channel. It's a place where stories like yours matter, where wounds find words, and words bring light. When you comment, when you hit the like button, you're not just interacting with a video. You're helping this message reach someone who might be one step away from a wake-up call, someone who's slipping like I was, someone who needs to know they're not alone. And when you subscribe, you're saying, I want more truth. I want more light in the darkness. That simple act helps this channel keep going, keep growing, keep reaching the souls that still believe they're too far gone. So if this resonates with you, don't just watch silently. Be part of the warning. Be part of the voice. Your participation is what turns this from a video into a movement. And together, maybe we can shake the silence that's kept too many souls asleep. Because this was only the beginning. What I saw next, I still have trouble putting into words. But I'll try, because you need to hear it. I kept walking, but it felt like the ground beneath me was breathing, as if hell itself was alive, pulsing with the pain of 1,000 lifetimes. The deeper I went, the more I heard them. Not just screams, but voices, full sentences, weeping, broken laughter, desperate arguments with the past. These weren't myths. These were souls. Each one still clinging to who they were on earth, still reliving the choices that dragged them here. And as I moved through that spiritual abyss, I began to recognize them, not by their faces, but by the echoes of their stories. The first was a woman. She sat before a cracked mirror, brushing hair that was no longer there, her skeletal hands moving in slow, obsessive strokes. She repeated the same phrase like a mantra. I just wanted to feel loved. I just wanted to feel beautiful. I saw her earthly life unfold like a vision. She was once admired, flawless skin, sculpted features. Her beauty worshipped like a god. Social media adored her. Every post, every picture, every compliment fed her hunger. But it was never enough. Cosmetic surgeries, envy-fueled competition, constant comparison, until her identity was consumed. She sacrificed modesty, morality, and eventually her soul at the altar of validation. Now she was trapped in eternal reflection, a mirror that showed the truth beneath the filters. Vanity as spiritual decay. Her cries weren't for attention anymore. They were cries for mercy that never came. This was no mere vision. It was a real hell story, a spiritual awakening delivered far too late. In the next corridor, I heard fists slamming against stone, not from violence, but from regret. A man, once strong and proud, now sobbed as he whispered the names of his children. He had lived a double life. Church on Sundays, rage behind closed doors. To the world, a decent man. But at home, a tyrant. His family feared him. He thought discipline was domination, that silence from his wife meant respect. He never raised a hand in public, but behind their walls, his words were weapons. He controlled, belittled, gaslit, and when his daughter finally found the courage to speak, he said she was exaggerating. Now, in hell, every word he ever shouted echoed back at him, a loop of pain with no pause button. He didn't murder. He didn't steal, but he devoured his family's peace. And that was enough to drag his soul into torment. Further down, I saw incense swirling in the flames and the faint sound of chanting. A woman stood with crystals melted into her skin, her hands still forming ritual symbols, as if trying to finish a spell that had long turned against her. She had once been a spiritual healer, popular among seekers of light, mixing ancient symbols with modern wisdom, promoting energy cleansing, third eye awakening, and divine feminine rituals. But she opened doors she never closed. She called spirits by names she didn't understand, and they came. What she called vibrations were actually voices, deceptive, whispering things that felt like truth but poisoned her soul. She had helped others, yes, but at the cost of inviting darkness under the mask of peace. In hell, those spirits she once welcomed now laughed at her, circling like vultures, chanting in reverse every mantra she taught. She had searched for healing, but ended up in the hands of demons pretending to be light. This wasn't just a testimony from hell. It was a warning. Not all light is divine, and not every spirit guides you home. Then came silence, a cold, eerie stillness broken only by a single voice, bitter, defiant, hollow. A man pacing, repeating the same sentence. There is no God. There is no God. But he was arguing with himself now. He had been a proud atheist, highly educated, witty, always ready to debate. Religion, to him, was primitive. He mocked Christians, tore apart Bible verses online, wrote books titled The God Delusion is a Blessing. But when death came, unexpectedly, he had no defense, no theory, no data. Now, surrounded by undeniable truth, his pride was all he had left. The torment wasn't just a fire. It was the truth, knowing he had cursed God with his dying breath, only to meet him the next moment. A real near-death experience flipped into an eternal awakening, but too late for redemption. Then I saw a throne, not majestic, rusted, crumbling, but still surrounded by flames that bowed like servants. And there sat Herod. He didn't speak. His eyes burned with madness. Around him echoed the cries of infants, the same ones he ordered murdered out of fear. He had once stood as king, proud and paranoid, trying to kill the Messiah before the prophecy could unfold. He failed, but his actions left a trail of innocent blood, and that blood now rose like smoke around him. Chains of gold bound his arms, symbols of power that now imprisoned him. He had ruled many, but he never ruled himself. Now he couldn't even scream, and the silence around him was the loudest judgment I'd ever heard. Not far from there, I saw a feast. Golden platters, overflowing cups, velvet robes, but all of it rotten, crawling with insects. A man sat at the table, clawing at food that dissolved in his hands. He was the rich man from the parable, and just across from him, a shadow, Lazarus, still silent, still peaceful, but unreachable. The rich man tried to plead with me, not for himself, but for his brothers. Tell them, warn them, don't let them come here. And in that moment, I realized he wasn't evil in the eyes of the world. He was successful, generous, even, but only when it was convenient. He knew the poor, saw the suffering, and chose comfort over compassion. Now, he could see everything, but he could touch nothing. In the next chamber, the air was thick with perfume and smoke. A woman draped in jewels walked circles around the fire, her laugh echoing like a siren song. But it wasn't joy. It was madness. This was Jezebel. She had led kings astray, seduced nations into worshiping false gods. On earth, she was powerful, fearless, beautiful, and cruel. She silenced the prophets. She raised up idols. She turned spiritual influence into spiritual rebellion. Now, the very demon she once empowered danced around her in mockery, and still she whispered, They're still listening to me up there. And she was right. Her spirit still infects culture, in music, in shows, in ideas that glorify self and sexual power. What she once unleashed now devours her, endlessly. And then I saw a cross. But not the one you're thinking of. This one was twisted, blackened, upside down. And nailed to it was the thief who mocked Jesus. Not the one who repented. The other one. He had the same chance, the same closeness, the same Savior inches away. But he chose pride. If you're the Son of God, save yourself and us. Now in hell, he repeated that same sentence, over and over. The ultimate regret, having salvation right beside him and still spitting on it. Finally, I reached a small, dark corner of hell. No flames, just shadows. A man sat alone, clutching something tight, money. He wore the clothes of the early church. This was Demas. He had once traveled with Paul, seen miracles, preached truth. But when persecution came, he left. He chose comfort, safety, status. He didn't reject the faith outright. He just slowly, quietly stopped caring. And now, the silence around him is deafening. He had the truth. He walked in light, but he loved the world more. Now I want to go even deeper into the subject, because what I found next was even more terrifying and more personal than I could have imagined. Comment there, that makes sense to me. If you're still here with me, it probably means something in this message reached you in a personal way. Maybe it stirred questions. Maybe it brought clarity. Or maybe it just reminded you that this life is not all there is. That's why I keep bringing these stories. Because sometimes it takes hearing what lies beyond to finally wake up here and now. So, if this journey spoke to you, go ahead and subscribe. That way we stay connected. And every new story finds its way to you first. And if you made it to the end, leave a comment saying, this message was for me. It's always powerful to know who's walking through this path alongside us. You can also tap the like button, not because of trend, but because this kind of connection matters, and it helps these messages reach those who need them too. There's a video right next to this one that takes everything a step further. Click on it and continue with me there